Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron Houghton. Joining me today, as always, we've got Darren.
Hello, young man.
And Paul.
Hey.
And Ivan.
What's up?
Today we're going to be talking about Christopher Nolan's new movie, Dunkirk. Later on we'll do our rant and rave segment, but first, let's see what's going on inside the entertainment world with...
You, on the mark!
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey, Ron.
Comic-Con is in full swing in San Diego right now, so there's lots of news coming from there. We'll just stick to that this week. First off, I would like to talk about a new trailer that debuted at Comic-Con for Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One, based on the novel by Ernest Cline. As you guys know, I've been raving about this book for a few years now, and can't wait for this movie to come out. And boy, did the trailer deliver. Big time.
Yep.
What did you guys think of it?
Yeah, I don't even know what this is really about, but just the imagery of this trailer has got me just so on edge, and I can't wait for this.
He was like the 80s vomited all over the screen, just so much everywhere.
Like
The minute I saw Iron Giant,
I knew you'd be.
my brain was leaking out of my ear.
like,
my
oh,
wife was
Paul's like
laughing.
that.
I'm like, Iron Giant, Iron Giant.
And the DeLorean, like, drag racing through the streets. I
Yeah.
can't, I can't
And
wait
the
for
light
this.
cycle.
This is just a taste of it. I'm telling you. What do you think the plot is, Darren? Just from the trailer.
Don't fucking know. I mean, it's. I've read a little bit about the book and
Right.
the movie. I try to not do so, but it seems like there's a virtual reality world that the main character enters, and it's
The
obviously
world's so shitty right now that the only fun place to be is in VR.
And there's
Yeah.
some kind of competition in there, right?
we see
Right,
images of the stacks, and I can only imagine how crappy it would be to live there. So yeah, they're like sort of Running Man-ish. I don't know much more.
Yeah, it
beyond
looked
that.
like trailer homes stacked on top of each other.
Exactly, Running Man-ish slash
The classic
pop
line
culture.
that's been used many times. It's The Matrix meets Willy Wonka. And it's really the Willy Wonka aspect of it. It's the main premise is the guy who created the Oasis, the VR, a guy named Halliday. And upon his death, he has bequeathed the entire Oasis fortune, the entire company, to someone who can go through a scavenger hunt and find all the clues that he's laid out inside of the game, inside of Oasis. And he was a huge fan of the 80s. So as soon as they announced this thing that, this prize, everybody in the world has been devouring everything from the 80s that they can and trying to solve this scavenger hunt. And it's all about this kid, Wade Watts, who is very good. And
It looks thrilling. I'm very excited.
the great thing, of course, incorporating is all of these classic scenes from 80s movies and 80s iconography that enters into every aspect of it.
Spielberg was behind much of the original stuff, I'm sure, that are referenced.
Unfortunately, I've heard that Spielberg isn't going to be referencing any of his own movies in this. So there's not going to be any E.T., any
Indiana Jones or anything.
stuff.
Well, that's too bad.
Which is too bad, because you'd think that those properties would lend themselves very well to something like this.
Of course, he's produced Back to the Future, and we've seen that. So
That's true.
It's probably just his own films that he directed, and maybe that would seem weird to him. But everything else. And that's why they always said Steven Spielberg is the only guy who could do this, because he's the only guy with enough clout to obtain all the rights to all of these different
and that's what I was thinking. Like, that must have been really difficult to get everybody to play ball with this one.
All the property rights, for sure.
Well, he's done it before for obtaining all those rights for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So
Right,
there you
exactly.
go. Yeah.
It's the only movie that it's still in history that has both the Warner Brothers and the Disney characters on the same screen together. You'll never see that again.
No.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah, it's a great trailer. My wife's read the book. She loved it. Ron, like you've mentioned a couple times, you loved the book. Seems like the kind of book that would be right up my alley, and this trailer makes me want to read it tonight.
The Iron Giant doesn't play that big of a part in the book, actually. So that's been changed a bit.
Yeah, I heard that they punched up
Nice
that
addition.
role.
Yeah.
So awesome, because I love Iron Giant.
I had to change my pants after.
I bet.
Sounds about right.
So, that looks awesome, and I can't wait for that. I'm glad you guys thought it looks as thrilling as I did. Okay, cool. Other news from Comic-Con. We'll start with the DCU. Wonder Woman has topped the domestic box offices and is now the #1 film of the summer with $389 million, just ahead of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with $387. And they've just announced that the sequel is going to be set for December 13th, 2019.
And Patty Jenkins returning
Patty
to direct.
Jenkins will be returning to write and direct it. Sounds great.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be
A
on
deserving champion of the summer, in my opinion. So
definitely.
Not quite the #1 of the year. Beauty and the Beast still holds that, but wow. I was hoping that this movie wasn't going to flop. I wanted it to do well. Number 1 of the summer, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Hopefully this Beauty slays the Beast, because it's a much better movie than the live-action Beauty and the Beast, in my opinion, anyways. But yeah, deserving to find all the success, not like, I mean, I hate to say it again, because we've said it many times, but Suicide Squad was almost a success in spite of itself, whereas this movie deserves everything it gets.
Oh, definitely.
Yes, while Suicide opened big and could only drop precipitously, this one has just remained solid all summer long through word of mouth.
And repeat viewings, whereas I doubt that Suicide Squad really had much of that.
The only reason I haven't seen it twice is because there's been so much other stuff to see this summer. But.
Agreed.
Well, I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just as good as the second time.
I bet. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, besides that, Warner Brothers has also announced their entire slate of DCU films, including Flash, a Flashpoint movie, of course, Wonder Woman 2, Shazam, Suicide Squad 2, Green Lantern Corps, Batman, Justice League Dark, and Batgirl. Quite the slate. Right off the bat, Flashpoint. It's very interesting to bring that title up. That's kind of an odd way to start with that character in this first movie.
I agree. I definitely thought they should have built up that character a little more. Although, I gotta say, I really loved the picture that Jeffrey Dean Morgan put out of him as Thomas Wayne in the Batman suit and Martha Wayne as the Joker.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he tweeted a picture right after the announcement.
Yeah, I don't know why you would want to get into alternate parallel realities on your first movie.
I agree. Like an out to maybe retcon anything that they're not happy with up to this point. Because Batman vs. Superman shows a very dystopian, dark timeline, darker than the rest of the movie. Hard to believe. Maybe that's something from that timeline, and this is alluding to that. I don't know.
I think it's just the DCU's way of, they want to do these big storylines that people know as their way of trying to play catch up with Marvel, basically. They're just, people know this Flashpoint, it's very popular. If you develop it, people will go to watch it because...
Yeah, but the Marvel movies all began with their characters each having the standard origin story from the comic books.
True.
And not that they need to play catch up with Marvel, but almost play catch up with themselves because they've been so atrocious so far. And maybe they're putting their biggest cards on the table now.
But it's almost like doing Captain America Civil War as your first Captain America movie.
True.
You know, it's
no, and I agree. And that's what I'm saying. They should have really built up the character, just like they should have built up Superman before they brought in Doomsday and done that. But I also did find it interesting for that slate of movies that there's no mention of the next Superman movie.
Yeah, I know.
Which is wondering what's
very
going
strange.
on there.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd try to get that character right.
Or maybe it's because they're bringing out Shazam and they're so similar.
The simplest character to get right. And
it's just Captain Whitebread. He's got to be the one that gives you hope. And right now, the only one that gives you hope is Wonder Woman. She did what Superman should have done.
Exactly. Justice League Dark could be interesting. I know I was quite interested in it when Guillermo del Toro was attached.
It could be an interesting take, something completely different.
The problem is you do that, there's so many characters in there that you're introducing for the first time as an ensemble movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy did it with properties that very few people... So it can be done. It just has to be done well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can put a character like the Black Panther who's obscure, and you're not even showing any sort of origin story for anything, and insert him into Civil War, and it works beautifully. So in the right hands, you can pull off things like that, but once again, are there any right hands at Warner Brothers or DC right now?
Patty Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins, you're right.
Did you guys all see the new Justice League trailer?
Yep.
I did.
Yeah. It looks just like the other one.
Looks slightly less bad than the previous trailer, I would say, but just nothing that grabs my attention and says this is going to be good.
There's a couple moments in there that gave me pause.
It looks more serious than the previous trailer, and that's what kind of made me think maybe there's something to be had here. It's not all just a bunch of goofiness and fun and games, but we'll
I agree until you see Aquaman leap up and jump on a parademon and plummet through a building and then, tumble onto his feet and basically adjust his hair like nothing happened. I'm like, lame. Oh no. That's what I don't want to see out of this movie. I agree with you that with all the scenes that had a little bit more weight, a little more character, I thought, okay, maybe this is going to be better than what we've been led to believe so far. And then seeing a couple moments like that, I'm like, or not.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that scene definitely felt like the whole overreaction to the serious tone. So they're trying to put in these little things that they thought would be fun or people would find funny. And it's like, just no. Those scenes with the Flash kind of making the jokes, I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty fun, given that character, because it's supposed to be like that, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks fine, but I've been waiting my whole life to see a Justice League movie, and I want it to look more than just fine.
Yeah.
I'm forcing myself to get excited about this.
I was just glad it didn't spoil anything big like Dawn of Justice did with their trailers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking this one, they're just kind of trying to show the action, more fun stuff to try and get people to be like, look, it's our new universe. We're not being as serious. We have more jokes.
One thing we should say is that although we've just seen the trailer for this and it's coming out in November, the movie could be vastly different from what we've already seen because they're spending $25 million on reshoots for this film.
And a lot of that is on Henry Cavill's mustache.
Yeah, okay, we'll get into that. A normal reshoot is usually maybe, and for even a blockbuster, is about 6 to 10 million a few weeks. This is going to be months of extensive reshooting at $25 million. So they're spending quite a bit of money to try to make this movie right. Of course, this is all going to be under Joss Whedon's direction. He's been taking over since Zack Snyder's absence. So who knows what we might see in the end. I've heard that what Joss Whedon is doing is connective tissue is what they call it. He's good at that kind of thing, right? Characters, a lot of the banter that characters would have and stitching scenes together. I guess the set pieces really work. They're all kind of fabulous and have that Zack Snyder visual element. And he's been kind of brought in to make sure there's a more cohesiveness that Suicide Squad and Batman vs. Superman totally lacked.
Yeah.
Hey, spend as much money as you want. Just make the movie good.
But missing cohesiveness in Dawn of Justice was the fact that they were forced to cut so much, which hurt it.
I hate the extended cut.
The extended cut wasn't any more
I
cohesive
really
to
liked
me.
it, in
I know.
my opinion.
We'll do a whole show just for you.
But I also heard that a lot of the stuff that Joss Whedon is doing is stuff that was planned beforehand.
It seems like damage control to me. Like when Joss Whedon took over the reins, they definitely did say that he wasn't going to change too much coming in and that whatever changes he made were already okayed by Zack Snyder. But this seems, at least to an outsider, like the scope of that has changed a lot.
$25 million is a lot for a few connective
Like they said,
reshoots.
This is a big, that's the entire budget of a big independent film.
Yeah. But like you said, they have to spend the money to make this movie right. Because if they release another dud like they did before, you might as well just, put this universe
sink
down.
the studio.
Yeah.
Right. A producer at Warner Brothers said that we're on a roll after Wonder Woman and we can't afford to make any more missteps. I don't know how you just can't throw money at something and make it good if it wasn't, but they had something there and they're making it better. Good for them.
And Joss Whedon's kind of got you one in there to do that kind of stuff.
After the Avengers movies, I trust Joss.
He'll make them feel like a team, if nothing else, and that sounds like what they're focusing on. And I agree. I take all the time you want to put out a good movie. Don't rush it out and give a schlock. If you need an extra half a year to make a good movie, do it.
One thing Hollywood hasn't learned, though, it's you can't just commit to that release date and say, no matter what, the movie's coming out that date. Just give us a good movie, even if it's 6 months later or a year later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it's the whole cost of added on cost because of all the advertisement they've done and all the money they spend on. They basically have to spend that money again to change the date, and that's why they don't want to.
Yeah, but they sink entire franchises by trying to make that date, whereas you spend the money to make the later date and improve the movie, and they should be years and years of revenue ahead.
No, and I agree, and that's what they should actually plan ahead. Don't give a date for a movie like before it's even started production. Be reasonable. Let the movie start production, see how it's going, and then pick the date instead of, okay, we're going to release this movie in 2019, on May 2019. They don't have a script, they don't have a cast, they have nothing, right?
That's what the movie business is now. They're just locking that date and then...
No, and I agree. It's definitely a bad way.
Force Awakens was supposed to open in the summer, and they postponed it till Christmas. I don't think it hurt that movie.
No, exactly. That was a smart move. Mm-hmm. Other studios can learn from that.
What's this expensive mustache ride of Henry Cavill's?
It's the fact that he's shooting the new Mission Impossible movie right now, and he has a full mustache for it because he's under contract with Mission, right? To not shave his mustache until he's done shooting that. If they want to bore him for extra reshooting on Justice League, they have to digitally remove his mustache.
I think they should go the other way and digitally create a mustache on Superman for the scenes when he didn't have it.
Exactly.
Let's have a full mustache Superman for the film.
Let's do it Cesar Romero style.
Okay. Switching from the DCU to the MCU, there's a second Thor trailer out. You guys see that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Ivan's not too excited. Problems?
To me, this movie, because it's Thor, right? He's supposed to be Norse warrior, a badass, and then this movie's just like Guardians of the Galaxy with a different cast.
Yeah,
to me.
there's not a lot in these Thor Ragnarok trailers that's really catching my attention.
No, it seems like they made like a buddy movie with him and Hulk.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is supposed to be Ragnarok, their version of the apocalypse, and they're just having banter. Like 80% of this movie was improvised lines of them just like
that's
having fun on set.
Yeah, I hold out hope because I've enjoyed the director's movie so far, but I don't know.
Yeah, they've also said it's going to be the shortest MCU film released at just 100 minutes.
Really?
So it's going to be lean and mean. Yeah, I had the same thoughts about how they're going to juggle the dark element with the comedic side. There was a run of Walter Simonson comics in the 80s with Thor, though, that had quite a comedic slant to it. Like he turned into a frog for a while.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, there has been some silly elements.
I want to see
before.
that Thor movie.
You never know.
Maybe Beta Ray Bill.
Right.
No,
I would be surprised if we might see him in this movie.
Yeah, it would be. There was some talk about it, possibly.
The more I see, the more I hear, the less enthusiastic I am for it. I mean, I can honestly say that I wasn't in love with the trailer.
It's just, I want to see them make a great movie to fit that character versus, like I said, just Thor is supposed to be a Norse god, warrior.
Well, that final shot with the what god are you again, and the lightning in his eyes.
Yeah,
that gives me a bit of hope. Hopefully, the comedy stuff is kept to the first act, and then acts 2 and 3
and the
are
final
more
shot
serious.
of Surtur.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of Thor's big baddies. That's the big flaming demon guy.
Okay.
Clancy Brown is playing him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's a perfect choice. Yeah.
But I definitely thought that they should have kept that under wraps, kind of like when they revealed Doomsday. It's just
sorry for anybody out there who didn't want to know that.
Thor is fighting a Balrog.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Just keep some mystery to it, have some, because imagine that scene, like if you're in the theater and all of a sudden he shows up, you're like, and you had no idea.
Only comic book fans are going to know anyways. Someone like me is going to say, okay, another villain. Tell me who it is beforehand. I don't know.
Yeah, if there's a third trailer, I'm going to avoid it. I've seen enough. The third trailers are always the worst. They always have more than you need to see.
One teaser, one full trailer, good.
Yeah, definitely. In other Marvel news, Walton, Goggins, and Michelle Pfeiffer have joined the cast of Antman and the Wasp. Michelle Pfeiffer is going to be playing Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp. That's great casting.
That is awesome.
I don't think her and Michael Douglas ever appeared in a movie in the 80s or 90s.
I can't think of them together in a film.
No. That's a good pair. So yeah, I look forward to all the Marvel movies, right? So I look forward to that one. And they've also said Captain Marvel is going to be set in the 1990s and is going to feature a two-eyed Nick Fury. So that could be interesting too.
And possibly Skrull.
Right, and the Skrulls. No, not possibly, for sure.
They are.
Definite.
So that could be what they're setting up for post Gauntlet, right? For possibly Secret Invasion.
Changing things up.
I don't know how they got the Skrulls from Fox.
Listen, you guys just ruined for me. Gauntlet, Secret Invasion, Scrolls. Come on, guys.
And what does any of that mean to you?
You ever heard of a Skrull?
It means as much as this box of Kleenex. As far as I'm concerned.
That box of Kleenex could be a Skrull.
It should be interesting to have Captain Marvel set in the 90s, though. It kind of makes sense. Once she gets off into space, right? Age doesn't really matter, right? She can, she's kind of timeless in space. So if she comes back 20 years later to be involved in the events of Infinity War, it won't matter if she looks exactly the same as she did.
And it's the whole, if she does go off into space afterwards, it kind of explains why she hasn't been there up to this point.
Sure.
So that's
exactly. Good. Yeah. We haven't had any news about that film yet. So it's nice to know that they're at least working on it. And it'll be good to have Nick Fury in it. We haven't seen him in a movie in a few.
Find out how he lost his eye.
Yeah, because he's not a part of the Avengers films.
Oh, he's not going to be in the next two Avengers films?
No, not from what I heard, yeah. And they've also said, and that's no big surprise, is that the next Avengers movie is going to be MCU's longest.
That is no surprise.
It should be.
Yeah,
exactly.
It really should be.
If they announced that it was 4 hours, I would be like, too short.
The cure for insomnia, Avengers style.
Exactly, yeah.
And honestly, they would need that much just to tell the whole story of everything.
Yeah, to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait.
No, same here. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I guess some footage screened at D23, and then they showed the same footage at Comic-Con. And, I've said I'm going to try to avoid everything that I can. I read a little bit about it. Oh my God, this doesn't sound good.
You're not going to be able to resist.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be tough.
There was some low resolution, handheld screenshots, video of the trailer. And I'm like, no, if I'm going to see this, it's going to be HD. I want to be impressed. I don't want to be robbed of any reveals.
I was doing so well before Dunkirk, and first Blade Runner 2049 trailer came up. I hadn't seen an image of it. So I sat for 3 minutes, eyes closed, plugging my ears, looking ridiculous, but I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I kind of wish I did that for that.
For sure. Okay, why don't we move on to our feature review?
Let's do
Sounds
it.
good.
What has happened is a colossal military disaster. We shall go on to the end. We shall never surrender.
The call went out. We have to go to Dunkirk. Ready on the stern line.
What are you doing? You know where we're going.
Into war, George.
I'll be useful, sir.
One of ours.
He's on me.
I'm on him.
They need to send more ships. Every hour the enemy pushes closer. They've activated the civilian boats. Civilians? We need destroyers. Where are we going?
Dunkirk.
I'm not going back.
If we go, they will die.
You're weekend sailors, not the bloody Navy.
You should be at home. There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do. Turn it around!
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender.
Dunkirk was written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It stars Fionn Whitehead, Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, Mark Rylance, and many more. I'll give you my synopsis. In one of the most remarkable true events of the Second World War, British ships, military and civilian, rally together to cross the English Channel and save the bulk of the Allied forces, who are trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. Okay, I should mention that Darren has stepped away for the time being. He has not had a chance to see Dunkirk yet, so he will be joining us back for the Rant and Rave section. Our first thoughts on the film. I'll begin. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. That's the reason I was so excited about this. I think the term visionary gets thrown around quite a bit, but I think he is one of the true visionaries in cinema. His movies look better than most other people's. They just pop from the screen. So I was really looking forward to this one. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid film. Again, like last week's War for the Planet of the Apes. Different than what I was expecting. I was expecting more an epic on the scale of maybe something like Saving Private Ryan, but it's more of an intimate epic, really. It's told in just a few personal stories, but it all weaves together, eventually kind of seamless. It's got a choppy narrative that took me a little while to get into, but overall, by the time the movie was over, I really enjoyed it and think it's pretty great. Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not always the biggest fan of war movies. They don't always necessarily land with me. For me, the reason I wanted to see this, it was an interesting story and true to life. And like you said, Christopher Nolan being involved makes me infinitely more interested in seeing this, and wasn't disappointed. Like you know that Christopher Nolan's going to bring something interesting to the table, and he did. The way he tells the story, it really is his own way of doing it. Like, the thing I loved is you are getting different points of view of the events of what's going on, and like you said, stitched together, and it's really interesting. And like you, it took me a little bit to kind of figure out exactly what was going on, but it's really interesting and really well done. And yeah, on a weekend that was all about San Diego Comic-Con and glitz and glamour, and this movie really brings everything back down to basics of survival. And I thought it was very well done. And overall, I really enjoyed it, and I was glad I saw it in the theater.
Awesome. Ivan?
Yeah, I liked the movie. Of course I did, and I agree with you guys. The narrative in the beginning threw me off a bit here and there until I realized that's just the way the movie's going to be told. Once we get into more depth, I'm going to tell you some things that I really like. I think I liked Inception better for a Christopher Nolan movie. I think I like this one better than Interstellar, but it was just, I like this movie. It just kind of, it jumped right into it. It didn't really go into how did this disaster happen, what led to it. It was just go, go, go. And I mean, I enjoyed it, but maybe the hype was too much, and I was expecting this big war epic that was going to be just amazing battle scenes and all of this stuff, which it had some of it, but not a huge amount. I mean, it's still a good movie, but I don't think it's the one that if Christopher Nolan was going to win an Oscar, he might get it for this one just because it's one of those, well, you should have got one by now, so we'll give it to you.
And the subject matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more serious than Batman.
Yeah, even though I would say The Dark Knight, even though it is Batman, I still think it was just a much better movie than this.
Right, I agree.
I think it worked really well, for me at least, that it was a little more intimate, like you said, Ron, where it was more the personal story. Because for me, not being the hugest war movie fan, those are the movies that have a little more staying power with me, like The Thin Red Line. Mm-hmm. Obviously, saving...
Reminded me a bit of that movie, didn't it?
Yeah. I didn't really have much expectations coming into it as far as the grand scale or smaller scale, but I was glad it had that more intimate, smaller scale, and it made you care about the characters. Every character that you saw, you cared about. Mm-hmm. And
would you agree with Ivan, though, that how it plunges you into the story? There's no time for catch-up in this movie. You're right in for it.
Is great because it's kind of what a soldier would experience, right? You're just dropped in, and if you're storming the beaches of Normandy,
but I mean,
or wherever,
for viewers who are unfamiliar with what happened that day and the story of Dunkirk, you really got to try to catch up as you're going along with this if you don't know what happened.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think the film suffers for that. I always like a movie that doesn't treat its audience like simpletons, and this doesn't do that. And it has faith that you're going to figure out what's going on, and I guess it gives it a little bit more rewatchability, too, that when you watch it again, you're going to understand exactly kind of how it's stitched together a little bit. Right. It is jarring, and yeah, it probably took me 20 minutes, half an hour to kind of really figure out what was going on.
Unless they're going from pitch black night to day in settings for scenes.
Exactly, and what exactly is going on. But yeah, I thought what he did was effective.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think that movie treated everybody like simpletons, but I don't think giving people the backstory of how exactly these troops got caught here, give them a little that story. I watched it with the wife, and afterwards, we didn't get into like an argument. It was just kind of discussing it. And she thought that this was kind of taking place in like the English side of the channel because she got the kind of towns confused. What's going on with all this French stuff? And we're kind of going back and forth until we have to actually look it up and start looking at the history. So I think that like, how did this military disaster happen? How were they cut off? They weren't able to escape.
I thought the movie, it could have just had an opening prologue that could have really explained things quite easy to the audience who didn't know and where everybody was even at.
But maybe Christopher Nolan wants people to go do their research rather than watch a movie and treat it as gospel. He might be giving the
audience more credit than they deserve.
Yeah, fair enough. For me, I was curious how it happened, but I just kind of accepted the situation for what it was.
Well, the thing is, going into it, I kind of knew the basic premise that they were caught on this beach and they were stranded. But I think a lot of people wanted to know exactly what led to that. Was it bad planning? Was it this? It wasn't like spoon feeding, like you had to explain this is what's going on, like the full story. Is just like give it a little background.
Or even, I guess you could do, like, before you even show any images, you could have some text explaining the situation.
That's what I meant,
And they had a bit of text, but just a couple of more lines, like he said, you could easily throw that in, right?
For me, it didn't suffer from that for me, but I can see how that might be a little more beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of.
I just mean with the fragmented storytelling and the jumping timelines and not knowing the history, it could be a lot for one person.
That's a lot to digest.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. As for the look of it, like I said, before the movie, you get commercials and then you get trailer and trailer and trailer, and then you get Dunkirk. And the first image that comes up so popped from the screen, and it's 70 millimeter grander. It's just like, wow. You're just like, oh, I'm in movie time, right?
Yeah.
His movies just look so great.
What I really liked about this movie is at the beginning with showing those two soldiers looking at each other. How long did it go before they even spoke?
Oh, yeah. There's almost no dialogue.
Movie,
yeah. And those guys were just... You didn't need it. We're like you said, but they showed these guys' desperations to get the fuck off this beach. All the little things that they kept trying to do to get off the beach from in there. And it was so well shot and so well done. Even that camera where it's kind of from the back on the stretcher kind of doing, like so well done. And just, they didn't have to say anything. You can just tell that these guys are just desperate. They're trying all these things like Even when they got on this might be spoiler.
But really, the only spoiler
in
in the movie we should tell our listeners is that the Allies managed to save themselves and regroup and win the war. If you don't know that, then really, I think we can talk about whatever we want in the
But you know the part when they go in that boat and now you see that other guy go down there, and I was actually thinking the exact same thing as him. If that thing gets hit, you're locked in that fucking room. There's no way to escape. I would have wanted to be outside on deck. Because if something happened, you fucking jump out of there and swim.
Yeah, and we see later exactly
how many guys drowned because, all those doors are
That's one of the things that's just, it just floors you when you're watching it, and just how fast one of these giant ships can go down. How one single plane can bring down a vessel with hundreds and hundreds of men on it like that.
And no
the tides of war
routes.
can change. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, though they do, there's that time when the raft is in the middle trying to pick them up and you're like, oh, sorry, we're full. We'll pick you up tomorrow. We'll see you in the middle of the ocean later.
Yeah. Well, it's true, because if they put any more, it would have sunk the boat and everybody would
you understand them, but it's hilarious just to think, you got a life vest? Okay, we'll be back tomorrow for you. Just hang out.
We'll get you. Hopefully you're still okay.
But it's just constantly seeing those guys just keep trying all these different things.
Desperate.
It's almost comical if it wasn't so tragic what keeps happening to them. You're like, oh my God. I mean, is there any safe way out of this hole?
And that whole situation where the French guy, the British were being evacuated, he takes the dog tags of a British soldier because he's trying to get off the beach early. He just keeps his mouth shut the entire time.
Right.
What these guys are going through, it's because all the experiences, the shell shock, even shows so much amazingly with Cillian Murphy's character, where
that's with the Mark Rylance character of the civilian. We get that point of view of the civilians who are using their smaller ships to help go over and carry the men. And that story's really well done. Cillian Murphy doesn't say a lot of things in this movie, but
no.
And the whole payoff to the tragic event that happens and how they try to shield him from it because they know he didn't mean to do it. Oh, it's that really
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it kind of would have been nice to see how Cillian Murphy ended up out there, because you really only see him, they rescue him, and then when he was kind of charged the boat, it's like, oh, you'll be fine.
From the way he's acting, I'm sure it was awful, whatever happened to him. Yeah.
Oh, huge. Like the only survivor of that boat, and,
There's a lot of interesting dichotomies and payoffs in this movie, like the balance and juxtaposition of, you look at Tom Hardy's character, where we talk about hesitate to say main guys, but the two young soldiers that are so desperate to get home and willing to do anything to get home. And then Tom Hardy makes the sacrifice to not get home to make sure that a bunch of other people do get home.
But I never understood, why did he land his plane in the enemy territory?
He's out of gas.
Yeah.
But he could have bailed out. And he could have bailed out on the beach with the rest of his soldiers and just let that plane keep gliding onto the enemy territory and crash.
I don't think he could, at least what I understood was he couldn't get the right angle, or he couldn't maybe adjust his positioning or his altitude enough. Just because the way they show that one guy kind of ditch into the water, he's got to come up at the end. So maybe there's just a slight acceleration to kind of pull himself up enough. I don't know. Maybe he thinks it'll be a distraction to kind of give the enemy troops centered around him.
It might just be more symbolic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's meant to be. Yeah. I think it's meant to be symbology.
It gets pretty tense, though, when he's trying to get his landing gear down.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God. It's just like, what would you do in that situation? Because he has no more gas,
And cool under pressure to think of everything that he does. Because I was thinking of like what these pilots are, and of course they've got training and they could probably do it in their sleep, but I'm just thinking like, if I'm shot down and my plane's plummeting to the ocean, am I going to remember all of these things that I have to do?
Sure. Like he keeps rewriting the fuel gauge because it's been shot out.
Yeah.
Well, remember when that pilot that went down, they rescued them in the boat, and then somebody's like, where the hell were you? Well, I was reading it up, like there was a lot of these pilots out there fighting, but the dogfights were happening further out from the beach and higher up, so these guys on the beach had no idea this was going on. So they were actually angry at these guys because they thought they were being abandoned by the Air Force, that they weren't there to cover them.
I'm sure it felt like that.
Yeah. So, but I thought that was one of the things that could have been built up more to some of the frustrations, because there was a couple lines, where's the Air Force? And this and that, they only show 3 planes. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of asking for too much.
I thought it was interesting just to see the mindset of people, like what you said, that whole, like, where were you guys? Well, they were out there and they were doing what they could. But even the mindset of the soldiers that kind of felt shame that they were stranded out there and weren't able to get to where they were needed, so to speak. Like the very end of the movie when they're leaving and that one guy's, you know, handing out blankets and everything. It's like, well, we didn't do anything. All we did was survive. Well, that's enough. And then the guy couldn't even look us in the face. And it's like, yeah, well, he was blind.
But he didn't know that.
Yeah, but exactly. And it's that whole mindset of like, they feel the shame, so they don't necessarily see that. It's just feeding into that mindset, not understanding truly the situation. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, me too.
No, and the whole people coming out, like all those private citizens with their boats that put their lives at risk to go out there and everything that happened. And the fact that it was, 400,000 soldiers trapped on that beach and they got 330 off of there.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah. When you read up more past it, a lot of the French soldiers stay behind to cover. They all got captured and surrendered, and
it was their country to lose. Yeah, exactly.
There was a lot behind it. It's such a big story to focus on that one part. That's
what I mean. It's an epic story, but it's told intimately. It's different from what I thought, but as a point in history, absolutely, it is one of the absolute turning points. You know, to think that they actually accomplished that feat. It's amazing. I wonder if people watching this would realize just how impactful what this meant to the war and the stakes that if, they wouldn't have got these men off the beach, that Britain would have surrendered the war and
we'd all be speaking Germany.
Right. Yeah, at least in Europe they would be.
Yeah.
So, I'd put it on the same scale as George Washington crossing the Delaware, saving the American army in the Revolutionary War. You're talking about turning points in history. And,
that's what I kind of felt was that they didn't give everybody enough of a big picture about it. Because the things that you just said, it's true, but the movie never really...
Like Mark Rylance, the civilian boat. You'd almost think if you're watching the movie that he's the only civilian boat on the way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because he's the only one that we see. And then it's at the end of the movie, there's hundreds, thousands of boats that have come, but they're only telling it through his point of view. And it almost makes me think, how many other pilots were there besides Tom Hardy, but we're only seeing it through his point of view?
Yeah. And it's one of those, like you guys keep saying, it's intimate. There were so many people there. I think that they made a really smart choice there, focusing only on these guys and showing their story, especially in the beginning where they didn't talk, that they did such a good job of showing these guys everything they're going through without having to explain it.
Yeah, this movie absolutely captures how fucking frightening it is to be a soldier in certain conditions. I mean, when they're being shot up in that one boat that they're all hiding in. And just the idea of the unknown enemy, the unseen enemy. We never really see a German soldier in this entire movie until the very end when Tom Hardy puts his hands up. Otherwise, it's just bullets coming from who knows.
And bombs from planes.
Absolutely, right? It's death from above. And God, these kids were, couldn't have been more than 20, the most of them. And I don't know how I would have dealt with that.
Well, I think also heard that Patrick Stewart's dad was there too. He was one of the soldiers. And I guess it was in an interview that he never really understood why his dad was a certain way until he kind of got older and kind of learned about shell shock and everything. Right. That's where he actually got involved in stuff like that as an adult when he could.
Just mention to our listeners, we had kind of a cool Calgary connection with this film. Showing up at one of the screenings was a 97-year-old veteran who lives in Calgary who was at Dunkirk, who was part of the civilian ships who were helping people, and he was in the war and showed up at the screening in his full uniform with medals and still walking with a cane. And they did a brief interview with him after the screening, and he was floored by the movie and just thought it was fantastic and how well it captures exactly what happened that day. And he said it was like reliving it again. So I think if Christopher Nolan heard that, he'd probably be pretty impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people were going up to him after the screening and thanking him for his service and whatnot. And I think it brings that situation to light. And great moment.
Yeah.
Well, it's the sacrifice, right, that these guys are making. Even when that kid George jumps on there and he kind of goes about, I'm not a great student. My parents think I'm a fuck up, but if I can go and do this, it'll be like the one, something good that I do in my life. And how these guys are actually going out there and you're showing that they really are risking their lives for this. Those guys could have easily given their boat up to the Navy and be like, you go, I'm going to stay home while you guys just take my boat. But he was like, no, I'm going going out there and I'm going to do this because he wants to help, right? And that way they could have gotten more ships out because there's more people, right? How many people said, no, just take my boat. I'm not going.
Right.
But as good as the movie was, I don't know. I don't think it's one of his better movies.
It's just so different from his other films. It's almost hard to classify.
It's true, actually. It's very true.
There was another movie, I think made in the 50s, called Dunkirk as well. And it's a poorer film compared to this one, that's for sure. One thing I'd like to talk about is the sound design of the film. As you guys know, I'm not a Hans Zimmer fan at all. I don't even think he adds music to movies. It's more just extraneous sound for the most part. He has a few things that I don't mind. That's not saying much. But in this movie, the sound design was kind of aggravating for me a lot of the time. I don't know what he was trying for. A lot of the times with the fighter pilots and Tom Hardy, there was this extra kind of, I don't know what it was. It's hard to describe that it's not music. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
To me, the music or the soundtrack kind of sounded the same throughout the entire movie.
You're talking about just like extra noise, like
right,
almost
like kind of just loud hums and thrummings, and it's almost like his equipment wasn't working, in my opinion. It's hard to describe, but I just found not the actual sound design of the effects and, the planes and stuff, which was really striking in this. It's the 97-year-old guy we were talking about said, I think this movie was louder than the real war. And I kind of agree. It's but there was other noises that was going on in this movie that I was just, what is this for? Is this supposed to be bringing atmosphere or some sort of ambiance to the film? Because it's failing. It's just irritating me and distracting me from what was going on.
I didn't notice that at all. All the hum I heard and everything I just took as, like the extra noise and hum of war and from the planes and everything overhead. It wasn't anything distracting to me.
Right. Maybe I'm getting old, but...
Or maybe the sound was just off in your showing.
No, because the other sound elements were working fine. It's Hans Zimmer doing whatever.
Yeah. Maybe I just kind of tuned that stuff out and I was just watching everything else. Maybe that's just me.
Or just me, apparently.
I was glad the kid from that boy band didn't fuck it up.
What do you mean?
Oh, I forgot that, was it Harry from One Direction?
I think so.
Who was he?
He was the guy that was doing the whole, he couldn't even look me in the eyes. He was the guy that also held the gun to the French guy's face, like, get out, or he accused him of being a traitor.
Oh, really?
That was the boy band kid. Do you really
Harry Styles?
I think so.
Something like that. Anyways,
it's like, are you really going to give, like, a kid from a boy band a movie like this for his first ever film credit?
It wasn't a weak performance.
No.
I didn't notice anything bad about it.
No, it wasn't, but I was concerned about it.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have known that, even
I
if you
forgot about it.
As performances go, it's not a performance-driven movie at all, really.
No, but a lot of it's kind of done without them really speaking. It was mainly body language, the fear, and everything else
like
going
Tom
on
Hardy
around
really
it.
Has as many lines as Mad Max.
Right.
Well, nobody really has.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Even Kenneth Branagh, who I thought was going to show up in the film much earlier and kind of be the guy to explain everything that's going on, doesn't even show up till about half an hour in. I thought he was going to have a bigger role.
Yeah, only has like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy and with the kids on the boat had the most lines than anybody.
Again, but I love that opening 20 minutes with almost no dialogue. Like, only someone like Christopher Nolan, like I say, someone who's so in control of his visuals would even attempt something like that. This is a guy who, I think he had this whole movie in his head for a few years and it's just kind of captured exactly what he wanted.
And it's kind of amazing. I think that he's kind of gotten to the point where studios will be like, here's money, make your movie, we trust you, right?
Yeah, it's proven to be quite a hit. It's doing better business than they thought it would.
Oh, much better business, and I'm probably going to pick up as it goes.
A lot of people have said it's the first real Oscar contender of the year. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's definitely Oscar bait.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I didn't love it by any means. Like, it sounds like I forgave it a little bit more than you guys, but I wouldn't say this is Best Picture by any means.
No, but I think it's a movie that I definitely recommend to watch.
And I will watch it again.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was interesting enough, and just the storytelling aspect of it, I want to see this again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you guys get the trailer for that Winston Churchill movie beforehand?
Yeah.
It would be a nice companion piece.
Yeah, I thought exactly that because there's one line in the trailer that appears in Dunkirk.
We'll fight them on the beaches.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, no, that looks good too. And very smart to put it before this. That's for sure.
So, for sure. Okay. I think overall, 3 recommendations, not glowing recommendations, but we all enjoyed it.
Yep, I really liked
Oh,
it.
definitely.
Mhm.
It's, like I said, knowing about the background only makes this movie stronger.
Yeah, it could be a little confusing
Yeah.
at the beginning for sure. Like, it does take a little while to get into the flow of the film.
Mhm.
The narrative and how he's pacing everything.
Yep.
So yeah, highly recommended, especially if you want to just see. You guys didn't see it in IMAX, did you?
No, I
would've-
kind of wish I had.
I would have preferred to. I was just a little lazy to cross town, but it looks great, 70 millimeter, and I'm sure the IMAX is quite something.
My biggest problem is the IMAX doesn't have the reclining seats.
It's a big plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's it for Dunkirk. Three recommendations.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely. All right, Dex, march on in here.
Yes, let's move on to the rant and rave, and we'll bring Dexter back. Darren is once again with us.
All right.
Would you like to begin, my friend?
Now that I'm back, everyone, I have for my rave this week, well, my first review will be 3 separate film score releases, so I'm cheating and doing 3 in 1, I guess. They won't be too long, hopefully. So my first one will be a brand new recording conducted by Nick Rain with the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. Music from Jerry Goldsmith's scores to the anthology series Thriller. Not many people know Thriller.
Never heard of it.
You don't know. Wow, that's surprising. I know of it really only for its discussion in film music circles.
What era?
It aired pretty much concurrently with the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone. I think it only ran 2 or 3 seasons from, say, 60 to 62, 63. It was hosted by Boris Karloff, so he introduced every episode. Anyways, very early in Jerry Goldsmith's career. And
First off, did you know if the show is available?
I don't know, actually. That might be on DVD, but I might be making that up.
Okay.
It's pretty obscure.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things. The people who know it from the time say good things about it.
I love Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Night Galleries.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I mean,
For sure.
It's titled Thriller. There, obviously, that tells you what the show is about.
I will
So,
be checking that out right after this.
yeah. So Jerry Goldsmith scored several episodes from this show. Given TV budgets at the time, they, of course, were not written for full orchestras, but smaller ensembles. This CD groups together his scores from 6 episodes, so there'll be more CDs to come, I'm sure, because I think he scored something like 19 episodes. And each one, he kind of does something different, something unique, whether it's the twist on the music hall sound for yours truly, Jack the Ripper, to some clever harpsichord writing in one of the episodes. Another one kind of focuses on the organ. Another one has a devilish solo violin kind of leading the small ensembles. The ensembles range from about, say, 10 to 15 players, so not big orchestras there. They're beefed up a little bit here. The original recordings might be lost. I don't know if they still exist, so these brand new recordings are really the only way to experience them. Jerry Goldsmith, of course, is one of the all-time film music greats, and if you're a fan, I highly recommend Thriller. Check it out from Tadlow Music. My next one will be, I apologize, Ron, somewhat Hans Zimmer-y. I was going to mention the score to Wonder Woman when we reviewed it, but we were kind of going a little long, so I edited myself out, thinking I'll just get the CD and review it later. The music for Wonder Woman was written by Rupert Gregson Williams, who is one of Hans Zimmer's proteges and has been for decades. He is not one that kind of took off to fame like some of Hans Zimmer's proteges, like John Powell, who's a big composer in his own right now. Rupert Gregson Williams has written additional music for everything from The Rock to, I think, The Lone Ranger, but his own scores by himself, I mean, this is the biggest one, probably. The theme for Wonder Woman, written for Batman versus Superman,
I was just going to ask that.
is used 3 or 4 times in this movie to great effect. And me being not a Hans Zimmer fan, and I don't know who wrote the theme because Batman vs. Superman is credited to Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL. So who wrote what? I don't know. Did they both collaborate on every theme? I don't know. This CD doesn't even credit either one of them for the theme. Weird crediting, I don't know, because clearly they wrote it and not Rupert Gregson Williams. Anyways, that's the reason to get this CD. It's such a good theme. It's just exciting and thrilling and driving, and its use in the No Man's Land sequence in the movie gave me goosebumps in the film. Like, I was just thrilled by that. And the score as a whole is not bad. It's okay. But I mean, if you're a fan enough of that theme and you want to hear a couple good exciting versions of it, buy the CD.
Yeah, I love that theme, especially the first time I heard it in DOJ. When she first appears. It just was such a great introduction.
And it's used when she's just walking in that first scene.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And it just sounds great. And then when she shows up and fights Doomsday and it makes another appearance. It's incredible.
Just so
It's
well
exciting.
done.
Yeah.
It's a theme that grew on me because the first time I heard it, I actually hated it. It reminded me of a heavy metal version of the 90s X-Men cartoon
If
theme.
you had described it to me in words before I heard it and saw the film, I would have said, this sounds like shit. But actually, then hearing the music in context, and you told me about it, Ron, before I ever saw the film, how much you liked it. And yeah,
I love the drums.
Yeah, yes, the tribal warrior beat, and I think that's
that
what
electric
grew on
guitar-driven theme. Like it's
Exactly.
hearing that described sounds awful, but it works so well, and it's I love it. My third CD that I'm going to review is called Lights, Camera, Music, 6 Decades of John Williams. It is Keith Lockhart conducting the Boston Pops Orchestra. Keith Lockhart, of course, took over as principal conductor of the Boston Pops when John Williams stepped down in 93-94. So he's more or less the spiritual successor to John Williams, and that makes it pretty much an official John Williams CD, even though John Williams had no involvement in it. They tried to focus on this on rarities, so it's not the flying theme from E.T. and the theme from Jurassic Park and Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter and the Imperial March and the Superman March. It features music from Heidi, which infamously, in its premiere, it was a TV movie. It cut off a very exciting NFL game.
The Ice Bowl, Green Bay versus Dallas.
In the final minutes and pissed off a lot of football fans. But hey, they were cut off by listening to John Williams' great main title music. So
if you're going to be cut off,
why complain? Heidi, Goodbye, Mr. Chips, The Towering Inferno, Midway, Dracula.
Which version of Dracula?
The Frank Langella version John Williams did.
Is that right?
Yeah. Features one of the more obscure themes, the friendship theme, in an arrangement here called Stargazers from E.T. The Witches of Eastwick, Sabrina, Sleepers, The Patriot, The Terminal are all featured, as well as the premiere recording of the concert suite from The Force Awakens, 5 movements, March of the Resistance, Rey's theme, Scherzo for X-Wings, The Jedi Steps, and the finale. Great performances. Keith Lockhart is a very good conductor. You might think as a Pops conductor, he's not maybe as world class as, and okay, he's not Carl Baum or one of the great all-time conductors, but he's very accomplished, very capable, and he knows how to handle John Williams' music. These are great recordings. They're recorded live in concert, and that made me think, how's the sound quality going to be? You don't hear a single cough or snicker or anything from the audience. The recording setup they had for the microphones must have been fantastic because the sound is excellent on the CD. If you're any sort of John Williams fan, this is a must-have.
Can I ask you an absolutely stupid question, Mr. Music?
Sure.
What separates a great conductor from an average conductor? I've always thought that because to me, it's the musicians who are doing the work. They have the sheet music in front of them. So I always thought I could probably get up there and wave a stick and do just as good of a job. I don't really understand what makes a great conductor.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a good answer for you. I mean, my technical knowledge of music isn't enough that I could really give you a good answer. I know there's 100 musicians on stage and it takes a lot of skill to keep them in time and in rhythm, or if it's a Charles Ives piece, not in time and not in rhythm. But yeah, I don't know. Reputation certainly plays a part.
There does have to be this great rapport.
There's certainly an art to it. Oh yeah, rapport too, and respect for the conductor as well. There's conductors who don't know how to handle their duties and keep the orchestra in line the way they should, sort of. They need to be disciplined the way a sports team needs to be disciplined, I guess, and that's what the conductor is for, the same way a coach is for a hockey team.
Okay. It's a curious question.
Okay, second rave. I want to be quick because we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast before, but having finally seen the most recent Best Picture winner, Moonlight, I figured I better weigh in.
Oh my God, finally.
Yeah, this is a very good movie. I don't quite have it as high on my top 10 list as you do, Ron. Maybe about 5, 6, or 7. So I'd place it somewhere in there for the year.
Right.
Roughly concurrent with, say, Silence. I might put it a bit ahead of Silence, but it's a little fresher in my mind.
Sure, it could have moved a few spaces on my list back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I won't have it as high as Manchester by the Sea or The Handmaiden or Arrival, but it's a very good movie. Far better than La La Land. And so much has been said of Mahershala Ali in talking about it. I just want to mention all the other performances. Just you play the kind of showy role and everyone takes notice, and that's obvious all the time. But man, there's a lot of great subtle subdued performances. All the actors who played the lead character in this film at the 3 different ages are great. The actress who plays his mother is fantastic, just wonderful. And then of course they needed 3 other actors to play the crucial role of Kevin, and 3 different times, and all of them just deliver. This is, I don't know, it's a movie unlike any of it I've seen, and I recommend it highly. There's a lot to like here, a lot of great performances. And
do you agree with some of the criticism I've heard that of the 3 segments, that some are noticeably weaker than the other ones? For me, they were all very consistent. I thought all of them worked really well.
Well, the opening one is great, and the third kind of has kind of great dramatic, I don't know if you want to call it a showdown or payoff, whatever, but that might make the second one seem less great, but it's still,
well, you're not going to have that climax at the end of the second one.
Yeah, the second one is crucial, and it's, I mean, how can you find a movie about like a gay black man in Florida tense and dramatically suspenseful? But it was just I was always waiting to see what would happen next with this character, and I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's
and
very
the final scene between him and Kevin is outstanding.
It is. It's very good. It's good payoff.
You're not even really sure where it's going either.
No,
you don't
exactly.
know how these guys, where they stand with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the main character's name now, but
he has different names throughout it.
That's true, yeah. He kind of has a different name for each timeline, doesn't he? Right. Depending on what people call him and why. Just think about a man in his lifestyle, occupation, being what he is, what you'd have to go through, and just to be crying for like human contact of some sort of romantic nature.
Oh my God, I know.
It's painful.
And even though Mahershala Ali isn't in the movie after the first segment, his presence is still so felt, especially in that third chapter, right? You can almost
feel for sure
the ghost of Mahershala,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Third scene.
Yeah,
powerful film for sure.
Outstanding film.
Cool. All right, so that was Moonlight and plenty of music. Little Jerry Goldsmith, Little John Williams. Can't go wrong.
No.
Ivan, why don't you go next?
Sure, why not? This week I will do another one rant and one rave, and I'll start with the rant, and that is War on Everyone. And this stars Alexander Skarsgård, Michael Pena, Theo James, and Tessa Thompson. So this movie is basically Alexander Skarsgård and Michael Pena play two corrupt cops. They're after some money and that kind of thing. Don't want to get into too much what it's about. My biggest problem with this movie is that it was so tonally all over the place. Because it tried to be one of those funny buddy cop movies where they're kind of corrupt cops, but their corruption was so over the top. Like the opening scene, they're chasing a guy down with their car, hit him and run him over, then rob him. And they're like, it's okay, we're cops. Well, anybody watching that would know that that's not okay. And it just to me didn't work, because then later on they were dealing with some really serious issues where things that were happening on just like the tonal shifts kind of back and forth, going between kind of silly comedy where they're kind of trying to show these guys being corrupt but kind of over the top corrupt, and then later on dealing with serious crime and all these things. Just to me went back and forth and didn't work. Should have gone one way or the other, or trying to find a way to bridge that gap of when it changes tones, but to me just really didn't work. So it was too much tone shift, just all over the place in my opinion. And the next one, Rave, is The Girl with All the Gifts, starring Gemma Arterton, Patty Constantine, Glenn Close, and introducing Sania Nanua. So this is a zombie movie. I believe you've seen it, right?
I discussed it on this very podcast.
That's right. And none of you guys have?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list.
Yeah, and it's a really good movie. I thought it had a really good, strong story. I don't want to get into, where it goes and all that, but I thought it was really well done. That the young actress did such a strong job to carry this movie.
Melanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
And she did a great job, just really showed some heavyweight acting especially with Glenn Close in the movie, right? And she did a very good job portraying being a child, being a zombie, kind of being a next generation zombie and what it entails, and
the conflict within her. I thought she portrayed that really well too.
I agree. And not just the conflict within her being a zombie and then the next generation zombies, but also how she actually does care for the humans that she actually developed relationships with, and where the story goes. So don't want to spoil anything, but I definitely liked it and I recommend it.
I really enjoyed it. I thought they did some interesting things, and it's not just your typical zombie movie.
There were some parts where kind of gave me that I Am Legend type feel. Not the movie I Am Legend, more the graphic novel, which I highly recommend as well over the movie. Amazing story. So that's it for me.
That was The Girl with the Gifts and...
The Girl with All the Gifts.
The Girl with All the Gifts and...
War on Everyone.
The War on Everyone. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it was a Netflix original, I believe.
Okay, Paul, why don't you go next?
I've got two things to discuss this week. One, huge throbbing rave. The other...
Can you just move your seat back a little?
The other is a moderate rave. I'll start with the big guns first. My wife and I sat down and watched Incendies on the weekend. 2010 installment by Denis Villeneuve.
Canadian
film. And it grips you right away to the point where I put it on because I wanted to see it. My wife had some project she was working on, and she said, just put on whatever you want. It's just background noise for me. Within 5 minutes, she was watching it alongside me. She was as engrossed and into the movie as I was. it's a movie about twins that are basically unraveling the mysteries surrounding their mother's death. And I don't really want to go into too much other than it's gripping and it doesn't pull any punches and it's heart-wrenching and amazing. I loved this movie.
Great performances too.
Absolutely astounding performances. It was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars. It lost out, unfortunately. But yeah, it's all in French and Arabic. And yeah, fantastic. I cannot recommend this movie enough.
Yeah, I think it's Villeneuve's second best film after Arrival, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it just... Like I said, it had me from the get-go, and it's relentless, and it never lets you, there's no real pauses, there's no real lapses in the storytelling I didn't find. It goes and you're along for the ride and trying
the general
to figure
mystery of it, is gripping. You're right. That's the perfect word for it.
Yeah, there's nothing obvious or cliched about what they do. It was a fantastic film.
Yeah.
You're right. It's better. One of those movies where you don't want to say really anything
exactly.
about it.
Just watch it.
Just watch it. And that's all I want to do is just make it so people are aware of this movie and how great it is. If you have the means to watch it, I borrowed it from you, Ron, after you guys were talking about it. And I agree with everything you guys have said about this man's filmmaking abilities, and it makes me want to see Blade Runner more. I've enjoyed every film I've seen by him. We saw Sicario. Of course, I loved Arrival. And then, this.
I usually don't like to mention it if it's not too definite, but there is talk that he's on the short list to do the next James Bond.
Really? And he's doing Dune as well, right?
He's got that, on his schedule too. That's, I think, more definite because that's more of a passion project for himself. Well, I'm sure the Broccoli's are looking for him to do it, the new Bond, but
he could bring something different.
Bond entices so many people, right?
Yeah.
And Daniel Craig seems like he's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like he's coming back for sure. You know, the only reason Spielberg didn't do a Bond movie is because Lucas gave him Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he felt he had done his Bond.
Yeah, Spielberg wanted to do a Bond movie.
Wow.
And Lucas said, I got something better.
Well, I can't argue with him.
Yeah.
But, what you were saying earlier with the auteur theory, you can definitely see
that's right in there.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Like, he's got a strong voice in every one of these movies. He's got a strong, distinct style of storytelling. And it speaks to me, I'll tell you that much. I loved it.
That's a great film.
And then my somewhat rant, somewhat rave is 1967's Wait Until Dark, starring Audrey Hepburn. There's a couple other gems of actors in there.
Alan Arkin.
Yeah, Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin, for sure. Richard Crenna is in there. Those Rambo fans will know him. Basically, the premise is a blind woman is alone in her apartment, and she's kind of the subject and target of some thugs trying to retrieve a doll that's stuffed with drugs. And I thought this movie was really strong. The suspense, and it's very thrilling, and I really enjoyed that aspect, but there's times that the movie I maybe thought itself a little cleverer than it really was. There was a couple times I thought just seemed a little implausible. Maybe that's just the fact that it's a movie from 1967 and I'm watching it with modern eyes. I don't know. But overall, I thought it worked really well. I thought it was a really strong performance by Audrey Hepburn and the whole cast. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it by any means, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, and it's been a while, but I liked it quite a bit. Yeah, it's a very good film. Strong Henry Mancini score.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. Not great. I would agree with you guys. I'm surprised you're not the biggest Audrey Hepburn fan in the world.
No, I mean, she kind of irritates me, as you guys know, but she's very good in this.
Yeah, she is.
She was surprisingly good in this.
Awesome in many ways. Irritating.
She's very irritating. I'd like to put my hands on her throat and shake her.
UNICEF ambassador to the world. Audrey Hepburn.
Can't please everybody.
Sorry, Paul. So that was
it's all good.
That was Wait Until Dark and
The Incendies.
And Incendies, right? Yeah,
phenomenal.
Okay, I'll go next. I've got an older movie too. 1985's Lost in America. It's written and directed by the great Albert Brooks. It's also co-written by Monica Johnson and stars Brooks and Julie Haggerty. I'll give you the synopsis. After losing out on a big promotion, David convinces his wife Linda to liquidate all their assets, buy a huge Winnebago, and spend the rest of their days exploring America, just like Easy Rider. Wow. Have you seen this movie?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. There's a brand new Blu-ray Criterion edition of it. Just came out. I've seen it. It's fantastic. This movie was in dire need of an upgrade. I love this movie. I love Albert Brooks. I think he's terrific. He's kind of second-tier Woody Allen for me. He's not quite up there, but his films are fantastic. In the 1970s, he was a huge, groundbreaking voice in comedy.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not know that and just know him from some of his character work nowadays, like in Drive and stuff.
Yeah.
But his early films like Modern Romance and Real Life are great.
What was the one where, was it Judging Your Life or something?
Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life.
With Meryl Streep. That's probably my favorite film of his. Maybe this one and Lost in America and Defending Your Life.
Yeah, I really like Defending Your Life.
They're really great. This one is right in the middle of Reagan America and the beginning of the yuppie culture and everybody obsessed with money. And these guys kind of take this left turn from that and say, you know, who needs money? We'll just live our lives like artists and hit the road, and everything just goes disastrously wrong for them. There's a lot of movies that are, what's that Ice Cube movie? RV. All of those terrible trip movies. This is not that. Okay. It's a lot smarter than that. And I almost don't want to tell you too much of what happens at the beginning, you know, with their nest egg and everything. It's too good to see what happens.
A very good movie. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's just got a lot of laughs in it. Julie Haggerty is in two of my all-time favorite comedies from that era, Airplane and this. She's really good in it. And for me, it's just every scene in this is like a little gem after another one, and it's fantastic.
It doesn't quite go where you think it's going to go either.
For sure. Yeah, I recommend it highly. That's Lost in America. Okay, my next one is... Oh, it's not a rave, that's for sure. It's a movie called Gambit. It came out a few years ago, directed by Michael Hoffman. And it's a remake of 1960s movie called Gambit with Michael Caine and Shirley MacLaine. This one stars Colin Firth, Cameron Diaz, and the late Alan Rickman. And the reason I watched this movie, besides the fact I like the original, is it's written by the Coen brothers. The Coen brothers, throughout the years, have done screenplay work for a lot of other people. They've had, like they did a Polish on Bridge of Spies.
Right, exactly.
Spielberg. So that was enough to make me curious about it. It's got a Coen-esque feel to it, but you can tell that it's not the same guys behind the scenes. I'll give you the basic synopsis. An art curator seeks revenge on his abusive boss by tricking him into buying a newly discovered Monet worth millions. So it's kind of a con movie / caper film. I love the original one because, and I left it to you, I think, Darren. It has a glorious opening 25 minutes, which is kind of makes the whole movie for me. The construction of the crime before the movie even starts. This remake kind of does that, not nearly as effective. This movie doesn't do anything nearly as effective.
The original is so good,
film.
yeah.
You know, the premise is pretty good, and the actors are all fine, and the script is okay, but I would just say watch the original. I can't get behind this movie too much.
Yeah, I was kind of interested, but I just couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Alan Rickman's good in it, if you want to see one of his last performances. But other than that, I would skip this one and find the original, directed by Ronald Neame. Okay, Lost in America and Gambit. Why don't we wrap it up for another week? Next time we'll be back to give our best of the 80s show. I'm excited about that one. We've been working on it for a while. We each have our top 10 list for the decade, and we'll see what we came up with. Should be fun. Until then, please subscribe and give us a rating on our iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube accounts. You can like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if interested, you can always comment and search for our past reviews at our website, whyweseemovies@libsyn.com. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Later.